All right, welcome back, folks. All right, so I hinted last week what was going to be coming this week, and so today I'm going to be doing a little unboxing and an install of the Easy Dial, and this is meant to replace the powder measure adjustment on a Dillon machine. So this works on the Dillon Square Deal, the 550, the 650, and also the 1050, and they have different sizes depending on what powder bar you're using. So they have small, large, and also the Magnum. So you want to make sure that you get the proper one for whatever powder bar you're using. And if you have multiple powder bars, you would need a multiple dial, yes. This comes to me from Titan Reloading. I did pay for this. This was not given to me, so this is a totally honest review. And I did have a snag with it, and I'll get into it here in just a minute. Total cost on this was about $69, including shipping. There was an additional cost on top of that. Again, we'll explain that here in just a minute. And again, this comes from Titan Reloading. They're based out of Wisconsin. Here's their web address right here. They're also a Lee master distributor as well. They're very close to the Lee plant, who's also based out of Wisconsin. And they're a family-owned business, so I love supporting them. So anyway, that comes from Titan. And again, this was not sent to me. This is purchased on my own dime. All right, so again, this is a second try in this video. I ran into a snag on this, which I'm going to explain here in just a minute. And it was actually with the dial itself. Honestly, Titan and the manufacturer were very quick to respond to me. They did resolve the problem, at least it appears so, and so we'll see if this new dial works out. All right, so let's get into the box here, or into the bag. And since I've had this actually for a few weeks, I'm actually pretty familiar with what everything is here and how this goes together. So we have a dial housing here, which is going to hold the dial. And this piece here is going to go on the end of the existing adjuster nut. We have a variety of different size retainers here. You're going to end up replacing the factory retainer on your Dillon machine. They give you a few different ones that are just a hair different size because there's going to be some variance there. So they want you to use the best one that fits. And of course, here's the dial itself. Okay, so it's got a locking mechanism here, so once you get it dialed in, you'll lock it in position. And you can see there's a couple different, there's the main dial, and then there's a black bar here, and as you rotate this counterclockwise, one full rotation, this will rotate as well, the black bar on top. Okay, so we'll get into how this works here in just a little bit. Actually, that'll probably be next week's video, but yeah, okay. All right, so that's that. Of course, it came with the instructions as well, and in the instructions there's also a supplemental. You'll want to keep this in mind. There's going to be some variance in the Dillon machines, and they apparently had some snags with some of them, with some of the assemblies over the years, so there might be some rough spots, some burrs that have to be removed on some of the powder bars. It doesn't appear that I've faced this issue, but you want to keep this in mind that there could be some fitment issues with some Dillon machines. Okay? All right, so let's get my old powder measure off, and we'll get this put together and get it installed on the machine, and we'll go from there. The dial comes with a spreadsheet that you use to actually calculate what your dial setting should be at. Included on the spreadsheet is a powder chart that shows all of the powder manufacturers and different types of powder. And what you do is you grab the VMD, or the volume measured density of the powder number right here. So for example, Tight Group 0.08475. You plug that VMD into the green box here. You plug in the desired grains of powder that you'd like, and it will calculate the setting of your dial that you should be at. You can then name this, and you can save this spreadsheet separately as its own file, and you can keep reference of all your different powders that you're using, and to know what you want your setting at. So as long as I'm staying with Tight Group, all I have to do then is change. If I want to increase the powder charge to say 4.7, it will then tell me what the Easy Dial setting should be at. automatically. So there is a calibration here that needs to be done as well. We'll cover that in next week's video. Okay, step number one, take your old powder measure off of your machine, and we're going to go and remove this, and everybody should know how to do this, but I'm just going to pull back on this to release that Dillon washer, or at least get it to come out so I can pull this bar out. There we go. And that should come right out like so. We'll set that aside. Now you have to get the factory retainer out of here, and it doesn't just pull out. And so what I recommend, I'm going to go over to my vise. What I recommend you do is install it maybe in a vise, and as you're turning this nut right here, you want to be pulling on this, and eventually you'll find a sweet spot where that retainer just pulls right out. Really difficult to do by hand. I'm not quite sure anybody will be able to do that. So I'm going to go over to the vise and get this thing pulled out. Okay, got the retainer pulled out. Now you're not going to use this anymore, but obviously don't get rid of it. Throw it in your spare parts bag. You never know when you might need this later on. So we'll throw this off to the side. All right, so we're going to further disassemble. We're going to remove the nut like so. We're going to remove the washers and make sure you keep these in the proper orientation. So there's a flat washer to start with, and then there is a crush washer behind that. Make sure you save those in the proper orientation. We're going to take the new piece here that installs over the existing nut, and this is a tight fit. Okay, just like that. Alright, you're going to reinstall the washers. Again, crush washer first, then the flat washer. And then you're going to go ahead and reinstall this together. Okay, take your dial housing here, and you will align this with the retainer facing the powder bar and slide this over that subassembly right there. And you're going to take the retainers they provided, and they're numbered differently. There's 25, 35, 45, 55, and they want you to start with the biggest one first and work your way down until you find the one that provides the best fitment. If I tried the 55 here, I get quite a bit of slop in that. And so I work your way down from the 55, 45, okay, still some movement there, and 35, well, that's pretty good. Let's try the 25, probably going to go with that one. Yeah, that's nice and tight now. Okay, so that is assembled now, and next step is going to be to install the dial. Alright, so this is where I faced a problem with my last one. The dial has a small set screw right there that is meant to tighten onto the shaft right here. And the set screw that came with my first one, the diameter of the screw was too small, at least according to my measurements. Again, I reached out to Titan. They got back almost immediately. They actually put me in contact with the manufacturer via email. I sent their a picture of the measurement of the screw on my calipers, and they told me what it was supposed to be, and mine was clearly too small. It would just push right through. It just wouldn't engage any threads. So the manufacturer shipped me out a new dial at no cost, but he wanted the old dial back, so I had to pay to ship the old one back. So again, total cost on this for initially was like $69. I had to pay $8 to ship the old dial back. I have not heard back from them on what they found out, but based on my experience playing with this new one, this screw is correct, and so the old one clearly was a manufacturing problem where they threw the wrong screw in. But nonetheless, you should be aware of that. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take this dial, you might make sure that this is set to 0, 0. So you can see that the black number is on 0, and the main dial is on 0 as well, and we're going to go ahead and lock that down. Now you want to make sure that your adjustment for your powder drop right now is set to the minimum charge. Okay, so get my pen out here so I can point. So when I tighten down this adjustment, you can see that bar moving in the middle, and it's going to hit this point right here, and that's going to be your minimum charge. Now they say to adjust this to minimum charge but not tight. Okay, so I'm not sure what tight means. I'm just going to touch it. I'm not going to put any real muscle into that, but that is essentially the minimum charge right there. So everything's touching right here on these angles. I imagine this is going to be pretty important for calibration, which is why they say don't over tighten it. Just you know, snug it, minimum charge, and we're going to call that good. So that's important that you set it right there before you put your dial on. Okay, so we're set to minimum charge, and our dial is set to 0, 0. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install the dial. There's a small pin right here on the dial that's going to end up engaging in the hole on the dial housing itself, and that should also line up with there's a little cutout here in the dial housing that should accept the lock button as well, and so it looks like everything is lining up there properly. Okay, and then take the included Allen screw and tighten the set screw onto the drive shaft. I wouldn't go too crazy on the tightness, but just snug it up. Okay. Alright, so now if we unlock this and start adjusting this, you can see that now it's moving the adjuster or the powder drop. Okay, and you can see the dial there moving. There's 3, and as it makes a full rotation, goes to 4. Okay, so on and so forth. So if we take this all the way back to 0, 0, we should be right back where we started. There's 0 and 0, and yep, that put it right back where it was. Okay, all right, so this is all together now, and this is ready to go back on the original powder dropper. So let's get that back installed. All right, grab your powder measure and get the bar slid in there, and you're going to have to pull back on that. Get that Dillon washer to slide over there. There we go. Might give this just a little bit of a nudge right here on that washer to get that to go in. There we go. And let's get our spring back on here, like so. And this is ready now. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to get this back on the machine. We'll take a look at it real quick, see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. All right, there's what it looks like installed on my machine. Again, this is a Dillon square deal machine, so yours will look a little different, obviously, if you had a 550 or a 650 or a 1050. But you can see that's what it looks like installed, so that's pretty cool. All right, so stay tuned for next week. Again, we'll do some sample drops. There is a powder calibration steps that you have to go through, and so we will run through that next week. But I am going to do, again, a few different powders. I got Tight Group and CFE Pistol, both flake powders, but different in their own rights, and so they do have different numbers you would set on that dial. And then Accurate number 2, of course, is a ball powder, so that's going to be even more different. So we will drop a few different powders. We will test out a few different grains. We'll go from a small charge to a large charge just by turning the dial and see how well it gets close to the actual number. Of course, we're always going to weigh it on a scale to confirm, which you should always do. But it should get you really close. And again, For those of you that have a 550 or a 650 or a 1050 and are loading both pistol charges all the way up to rifle charges or even magnum rifle charges, your grains of powder you could be dropping could be anywhere from 4.5 up to 75, you know, if you're loading 300 Win Mag or something like that. So you can see a huge variance, and being able to just quickly turn that dial up to what you need would be phenomenal. Now again, I want to remind you there are different sizes. This is the small. I have the small powder bar in mind, so if you have a large powder bar or magnum powder bar, it will require a different dial, so keep that in mind. Okay? All right, everybody stay tuned for next week for the calibration and powder test. Thank you all very much. Be sure to check out a couple of my previous videos over here on the left. Be sure to subscribe right there. Thank you all very much. Hope you're having a great day and have a Happy New Year.